Good morning, everyone. In the last session, we discussed about the one of the important example called string buffer constructor here. Okay, how this particular constructor is implemented internally, we identified. Now, what do we need to understand here? By default, we'll try to store as a 16 characters, or we can call it as a 16 length of this particular string object here. Now, if we reach this particular 16, now what happens internally? It is going to create a bigger byte array. So how it is going to create? Now we'll need to understand here how this particular array is going to create a little bit bigger one. Okay, so now we'll see how this particular section is going to create. Now if you observe, so this is a string buffer we provided. Now based on this particular string buffer, yesterday what we identified here, now what is the length of this particular buffer size here? Something like we got as a 12. So 12 plus, here we are having 16 is a by default size. Now totally how much we are having basically? So 28. Based on this particular 28, yesterday we created string buffer object. Now already 12 byte objects are already inserted here. Now another important one, what we need to understand basically here, so we need a 16 more character space. We are having 16 more character space. Now we'll see how this particular string buffer dynamically it is going to increase here. How this particular string buffer dynamically it is going to increase here. So today we'll understand here this particular section of code here. Now, okay. Now what we can do after creating this particular string buffer, what is the method yesterday we identified to call this particular section of the string buffer storing here. Now string buffer dot what we can identify here, append method. Now here I'm trying to append, so one more new string buffer. Okay, so this is the one append method I'm calling here. Now after this, what you need to understand here, let me run this example again. So yesterday string buffer internally it is trying to use a abstract string buffer one super class here to create all the object. Now if you see, this is the constructor we are calling. Now what is the object we are passing? String buffer object we are passing, and internally what is the length we are having currently? It is returning as a 12 here. So 12 plus 16, so it is become 28 here. Now it will go to this particular super class. Now it is trying to create a, now it's time to create a object of this particular byte array. Here you can see new byte we are providing. It is not a single object. Here we are trying to create a, byte array object. What is the capacity we are providing? 28. Now by default, with help of this particular string, we are trying to create a 28 capacity related byte array. Now after this, what happening internally? We are coming back to, we are calling the append method. This append method internally it is checking super dot append. Now we are going again super class length we are checking. So we are checking the capacity. After this, we are trying to insert the string here. Okay. So this thing now, whatever the str we are having, now it is going to be inserted here. After this, we are trying to increasing the count here. Now, what is the count as of now? 12. Okay. Next time, if you're trying to insert the value, it will try to insert from the 12 index location. 12 index location. Okay. I'm trying to return this. After this, object is returning. Okay, object is returning. Now I'm trying to call the append method. So this is important here. Now we need to understand the how this append method is doing internally. Okay, sorry. It is not called this append method. Let me run one more time here. Okay, so this is append method is calling here. Now we are going the superclass append method. Now you can see what is the length we are having. What is the length it is returning? Length it is returning as a 17. Getting the point? 17 we are having. Now, if we observe carefully, what is the current space we are having under this particular byte? What is the current space we are having? 16 character space. Now, if you see here, ensure capacity method internally, what exactly it is doing. So, what is the old capacity? Now, if you see old capacity, we are getting 28 here. Okay, old capacity is 28. But how many characters are already stored under this particular old capacity? Now, if you see here, already 12. So 0 to 11 is nothing but 12 characters already we stored. So what is the remaining? Remaining from 12 to 27 here. 12 to 27. Now, if you see, observe carefully, minimum capacity. What is the minimum capacity we are having? 29 we are getting. So how we are getting this 29 here? Now, if you go to the next method, here you can see count plus length. Count plus length. What is the count basically? 12. Count basically we are having 12. Now, what is the current length we are having? 17. So it is become 29 here. 29. But earlier, what is the size we given? 28 only. Okay. So now we are having one more extra space is required. Now, whenever it is required with the existing object, we are not going to use the existing object. Now, what we need? We need to recreate the byte array. Okay, how we are trying to creating this recreation here? So this is the condition. Now, if you see, minimum capacity we are getting 29. The old capacity we are getting as a 28. If we do this subtraction, we are getting the positive value now. So in the previous example, we could not get the positive value, but now we are getting the positive value. Now, whenever we are getting the positive value, whenever we are getting this positive value, now what you need to understand here, first it is going to create a new capacity. It is going to create a new capacity. Now, if you see condition is satisfied, now it is going to call this particular method called new capacity. What is the new capacity is going to return? So now if you observe, simply and just I'm trying to call 58 here. Okay, this is the new capacity. So initially we created the byte array as a 28. Now we are extending with 58 here. Now we are extending with 58 here. Now after this, what exactly this method will do? Arrays.copy method. It will copy the old values. So what are the old values we are having? This is the value. Now already we initialize some values 0 to 11. 0 to 11, we already initialize the value. So because of this, now what happens internally? It is not going to initialize the new object. Because of what we are doing, we are first creating a new capacity. So once a new capacity is created, we are going to copy the existing value into new byte array. So this particular method will take care of copying the existing value into newly created byte array. Okay. So now observe carefully. After this particular step, if you see the same value, how much it is returning? 57. Okay. If you see 0 to 57. But earlier, what is the size we have? 0 to 27. Now, how it is increased here? Because of this particular new capacity, internally new byte array object is going to create. Now it will copy the existing byte array value into newly created byte array. After that, so the same reference, whatever the newly created byte array, we are referring to the same value here. Now, this is what we need to understand. So this is a way the string buffer is going to be growable here. String buffer, dynamically it is growing the object sizes here. But this particular mechanism, this particular core, we don't have in the string class. String, because of this, string is a immutable. Once object is created, we cannot change here. But here, in the string buffer, we are having the scope to change the object here. How we are changing? Using this particular minimum capacity, old capacity. Once the condition is satisfied, we are trying to create a new capacity. After, like based on the new capacity, we are trying to go for the new byte array object. We are copying the existing value into newly created byte array. Now the newly created byte array we are referring as a value, so that the old byte array object is going to be destroyed here. So this is what we need to understand here. Now, after this particular section of code, what we are doing is we are increasing the count. What is the current count basically? Current count is 12, but here if you observe length, current length is how much? 17. Now it is go for the 29. So 12 plus 17, it is become 29. Now if you see this, but this particular, where is now we are under the abstract condition, right? We'll go for the, here, we'll go for this particular, okay, this keyboard is there, no? Here we can see the value. Now it will give you the size here. This dot value. Now whenever I'm doing this dot value, 0 to, earlier it was initialized with 11, but now if you see from the 12, now it is initialized up to 28. So what is this object is saying? New string buffer object. Now after this, how many still we are having? From 29 to 57. 29 to 57, still we can initialize the value. Now, whenever again the condition is satisfied, automatically what happens internally, it is going to recreate the new byte array with a new capacity. Okay, so this is what we need to understand. Now, after this, I'm trying to return this particular string buffer. Okay, now after this particular section of code, if I'm going to print this particular string buffer, so we'll see how this particular string buffer is going to print here. How this particular string buffer is going to print here. Okay, so now if you see, this is the earlier string buffer we created. Now after this, we come up with a new string buffer. Here you can see, while creating a constructor, I pass a string as a parameter. Now after this, I'm calling one append method. So this append method, exactly what is doing? It is trying to append the end of the existing string buffer object. So this is what we need to understand here. Now, what you need to understand basically here, after this particular string constructor, what is another constructor we are having here? The another constructor is a capacity constructor. So what exactly the int capacity will do here? Now, for example, if I'm trying to create a 26 here, but what is the default capacity? 16. Now what I'm doing? Now one more string buffer object I'm trying to create with help of the capacity called 26. Now if you go to this particular string buffer, here we are passing the capacity. Okay. Now it will go back to the super class here. Here you can see capacity. Now what you understand is, whatever the capacity you are providing, based on the capacity, new byte array it is going to created here. So this is what we need to understand whenever we are trying to come up with a capacity. Once a capacity is created, what is the next step here? We are going to insert the value into this particular string buffer object here. So string buffer internally, what is using it? It is trying to use the byte array to store all the character values here. One by one character is going to store. But how it is converting? The toString method is going to take care of conversion of this particular byte into string buffer object here. Okay, this is all about the important section about the constructors here. Now, what we can identify? So length method. Now, what exactly length method is doing here? Currently, how many objects are stored under this particular string buffer? Now, what about the capacity method? Currently, how many values we can store into this particular string buffer. So see the difference basically. Length, for example, this is a newly created string buffer object here. Now, if you see 0 to something like 15, if I'm giving the 15 here. Okay, 0 to 15. Now, what is the capacity? So capacity will become 16. What is the length here? Length currently I stored up to 10 only. Okay, something like 1, 2, 3. Here I given as a 10. Now what you are understanding here? Now up to 10 here. So this is the index location called 10. Now whenever I'm storing, the length will become 11. Now 0 to 10 indexes purpose. For the length purpose, which will start with 1 to 10 here. Getting the point? Now because of this, the length will become 11. So carefully observe, length method will return only these many informations here. So up to how many elements we store under this particular string buffer. Now what about this particular capacity method? Capacity will do currently how many elements we can store under this particular string buffer object. Okay, now observe carefully how we are going to run this particular length method. This is the length method, and another one is capacity method. So now observe carefully, length how many values will do, and capacity how many values it will return here. Now you can see length we are having currently 29, the capacity we are having 58 here. Capacity we are having 58 here. So initially 16 plus this particular string buffer is something like 12. Now that is become around 28. After this, so with the help of this particular append method, we increase the our string buffer object here. We increase the our string buffer object. So this is what we need to understand here. This is what we need to understand. Length method currently how many the byte value store under this particular string buffer. So capacity, what is the total numbers we can store under this particular string buffer. So this is the constructor signed length and capacity method. So any questions? Anyone having any questions regarding these two methods and constructors? Okay. Now, if you don't have anything, so what you need to understand basically, so what are the different methods we are having along with this particular length and capacity. Now another method, if we observe string buffer dot ensure capacity. So what exactly this ensure capacity will do here? Now ensure capacity, if we observe, whenever you are trying to providing here, explicitly you are going to increase the capacity of the string buffer object here. So for example, now if I'm trying to give as a 32 here, so what exactly this particular ensure capacity is doing internally. So this is also important here. We need to understand here how this particular ensure capacity is doing internally. Now coming back to here, now I'm calling this particular ensure capacity. Here it is going the super class here. Now here I'm putting the breakpoint. Now if you see minimum capacity, whatever we provided, it is a greater than 0. So 32 we provided. After this, if you observe carefully, internal method is calling it. Now, so same thing. So finally, we come back to the same method wherever we are trying to increasing this particular object to sizes and to capacity here. So this method basically what exactly it is doing is dynamically it is increasing the capacity of this particular string buffer. So dynamically is nothing but what is static here. So manually, if you write the same code, that is we'll call it as a static, because here we are not compiling, we are not deploying anything here. So whenever you are running, automatically it is going to take care of increasing the capacity of this particular string buffer. Now ensure capacity method, what is doing basically, what you are understanding it explicitly. So after creating an object, if you want to increase the capacity of this particular string buffer, now what we will do, we'll call this particular method so that we can increase the capacity of this particular string buffer here. Now, if you see what we are doing here, minimum capacity. Okay, minimum capacity 32. Already the old capacity we are having 58 here. So what you understand here, if you want to increase the capacity, so first we need to understand what is the current capacity we are having. From that current capacity, you need to give the greater value. So then only this condition will satisfy and it will recreate the new object here. So it will copy the existing values into a newly created byte array here. Okay, so this is what we need to understand here. Now observe carefully. Now observe carefully. Whenever we are giving explicit capacity, so then also we are trying to increasing the string buffer capacity. But here, so it should satisfy this particular condition. Now if we give the capacity value, it should be the greater than of the old capacity. Then only this particular condition is going to satisfy here. So this is what we need to understand regarding this particular ensure capacity. Now set a length here. Set a length here. So what exactly the set length method will do here? Now we identify explicitly setting this particular capacity. Now here we are having set length. For example, what is the current length we are having? 29 here. Now what I will do, I'm going to give as a 32 here. The length I'm trying to give as a 32. Now we'll run the same example. We'll see how this particular example it is going to be run here. Sorry, I missed this one. Let me put a breakpoint. We'll run one more time. So we need to see the internal implementation of each and every method. So how it is implemented here. Now if you observe, here we are trying to call toString cache is null, and I'm calling the super class set length here. Now observe carefully, new length. What is the new length we created? 32. Now this is not a less than 0. Now the condition is false. Now we are coming back to here. Now what we are doing here, if we observe ensure capacity internally. So we are calling ensure capacity internal method. Now, so same method we are checking here. So this particular method, it is trying to call from the multiple location to check whether we want to create a new object or the existing object is going to be store all the values. Now if you see what is the old capacity, the old capacity we are getting as a 58. Now here what is the minimum capacity we are providing? 32. So again this condition is not satisfied. Now coming back here, after this what we are doing here, what is the count here? What is the count we are getting? 29. Now what is the new length here? 32. Condition is satisfying here. Condition is satisfying. So when this particular current length is 29, now newly created length we given as a 32, what happening internally? So condition is satisfied. We are coming back to the below condition. Here you can see. Now if we observe carefully, count how much we are having? 29. So 29 to 32, around 3 values we are going to provide as a null here. Around 3 values we are going to provide as a null. So after come out of this, now if you see this particular value, after 29, this one 29, 30 and 31, this is going to make as a false. Now if you see the count here, what is the new length here? 32. What is the new length we modified here? 32. Here what you are understanding here, whenever we are providing explicitly length value, okay, here we don't have a scope to provide the values because we are increasing the length, but how the length is going to increase? We should provide the value, then only the length is going to be increased. Now currently what are the values we are providing here? Null values. Now if you see this, what is saying this particular method? Fill null values. When it is going to provide the null values up to modify this particular condition, up to satisfy this particular length condition here, it is going to provide the null values here. Okay, so this is what we need to understand. Now how many null values we provided here? 3 null values. If whenever you are calling one more append method, it will not start from the 29, it will try to start from the 32 location, it will try to insert the value. So this is what we need to understand. But we'll not use this particular set length method explicitly to set the value most of the cases. But here we'll try to use the capacity, ensure capacity method, and we'll go for the length and capacity to find out the current length and current capacity available under this particular string buffer class. So still any questions? Okay, now if we don't have anything, so we need to understand the another method called caret method. Now what exactly this particular caret method is returning is? So this is we already discussed in the string class as well. Now what we are doing here, if we observe, I'm giving this particular 12 index location. Whenever I'm giving this particular 12 index location, what it's doing basically, it is trying to return the in the 12 index location, what is the character is resides, the particular character is going to print here. For example, here, if you go to this particular caret, now what is the method we are calling? Super dot caret method. Now you can see super dot caret. Now here, check index here. Check index. Now whatever the value we provided, whatever the index value we provided, the value within this particular count or not. So count is how much? 32. So within this particular 32, the given index is available or not. What is the value we provided? Something like 12. Now if you see this particular method, index, so it should not be less than 0 or index greater than or equals to length. Okay, it should not satisfy with less than 0 or it should not match with the current length which is available under this particular string buffer object here. So if it is satisfied, we'll get this particular exception here. We'll get this particular exception. In our case, it will not. In our case, it will not satisfy. But if it is not satisfied, if you see, observe, if you see carefully here, value is a byte array reference variable, and index. What is the index here? So whatever we are passing. So it's a simple one. If you know the important section about the array concept here you can easily understand how this particular value we are returning. Now we are providing the index location. So once we provide this particular index location, now it is trying to return the value, and explicitly we are converting into this particular char also here. This is what we need to understand regarding this particular caret method. Now observe carefully how this particular caret method, how it is internally implemented here. Now going back to the set length here. Okay, this is all about the check index here. So index is, it is not satisfy whatever the condition we have, less than 0, greater than or equals to length. Okay, now length is something like 32. The value we provided 12, so it is not going to satisfy. Now after this, what is the value we are trying to return here? What is the value we are trying to return? Now if you see this, what is the value we are trying to return? N. In the 110, the particular n value, ASCII value as a 110 here. Now we are trying to return as a small n here. So now you can see string buffer caret method, what is returning here? If I'm going to print this, if I'm going to print this, now it will try to print as a small n. So this is the character is trying to store under this particular 12 index location. So here you can see 12 index location. This is what is the size we given here. Initially, this is the, I think 11 size something we given. Now this is the n character is now loading here. This is what we need to understand regarding this particular caret method. This caret is the same method we already discussed in the string classes here. Now what about this particular set caret? Caret method will return the current character based on the position. Now what about this particular string buffer dot set caret method? So set character is expecting how many parameters? 2 parameters. What are the 2 parameters? Here you need to provide the index and caret here. Index I am going to provide as a 29. Index I am trying to providing as a 29. The character I will give as a T. I will give as a T here. So now if you see, after this, here I am going to print this particular string buffer object. Now what exactly the set character method will do? Based on this particular index position, it will update the particular character. Now you can see here what is updating after this particular string buffer. Here we are calling this particular explicit set length method. This set length method, what is doing it? It is trying to, okay, it is trying to, this particular set length method is increasing the empty null values. Now in place of empty null values, now what I did, here I come up with a overriding the existing value. So using this particular set character method, based on the index location, the existing character now it is going to replace with a newly created character here. Okay, here. So now after string buffer, I come up with the capital T here. Earlier we have a null values. If you see here, these are the two more spaces we are having, because here we inserted the null values here. Because of this particular set length method, now what happens internally, three characters like 3 byte values we inserted as a 0, but whenever it is converted, now it is giving as a space here. Okay, in this particular space, now what I'm doing here, I'm trying to overriding the 2 more characters here. So now you can see in the 30 also, in this particular 30 also, I want to provide as a yes. In 31, I given as a capital V. Now I'm running this. Now you can see there is no space now. Whatever the space we have earlier with help of this particular set length, now I override with all the characters here. But how we are overriding? With help of this particular set caret method. Using this particular set caret, what I'm doing here, I'm trying to replacing the existing character. So this is the purpose of this particular caret method. So any questions regarding this particular set caret method? Okay. Now, if you don't have anything here, what we need to understand here, we'll go for the another method here, getChars method. So this is the same getChars method what we already discussed in the previous session. For example, string buffer dot getChars. Now here you can see how many we are having the method parameter, 1, 2, 3, 4 parameters. Now observe carefully, source begin. From the which index onwards we want to copy. Now what is the source end? How many elements we want to copy? So here we need to provide the end index location. Like what is the destination character array? Now from the destination character array, what is the index location we want to start here? What is the index location we want to start here? So these are the important parameters we are having. Now if we observe carefully, I am going to come up with this particular getChars. Now before going to create here, we need to create the char array. Okay, so how many we can store? I'm trying to store as a 25 here. I'm trying to store as a 25 first. So second index location, so I want to store from the second here. Now what is the length we'll get as a 31 or 32 will get as a the length here. Now what I need to do, string buffer dot length method I'm calling minus, okay, so I want to store as a 7. Okay, this is the length I'm giving. Now store into this particular ch reference here. Store into this particular ch reference here. Now what is the destination? 0. So carefully observe what we are doing here. This is very important, we need to understand here. Source begin is 2. Source end, basically this is the length I given. Between this particular length, how many characters we are going to get? All the characters now I'm trying to set into this particular ch. After this, the destination, it is going to start with the 0 index location here. Okay, now I'm putting the breakpoint here. Now I'm running in the debug mode so that we'll understand how this particular get catch method is going to be implemented internally. Okay, so carefully observe here. What I'm doing is I'm starting, like I'm trying to load from the second index location. What is the second index location here? So S is going to store in the 0, T is going to store in the first, and R is going to store in the second index location. Now see the ch here, from R. Okay, from R. Now how many values we stored here? Now here you can see 24, because we given as a 25 size. Now what happening? Empty character values are set here. These two empty characters are setting here. Okay, using this particular get chars method, how many we are setting? Only 23 here. The remaining two values, empty character values, are going to be stored here. This is the default the character value here. Okay, now what you need to understand here, it started with the second index location. It is ended with something like 23 or 24. If you see, what is the current length, we'll get it here. 32. Okay, so 32 minus 7. Whatever the result, we'll get it here up to the between those values. Now if you see, this is a bigger string buffer array. Now it started with the 2. Okay, it started with this particular 2. Now after this, what we are doing here, here we are having subtraction from the length. Now we are doing the 7 values here. So how many we are having? 23, 25 here. But in the 25, we don't have two values. So these two are the empty values. Now finally, what we can identify? This is 1. This is the original. So 0 to 32. 0 to 32 is the original. But using our get chars method, I want to load only 2 to 25. Between this particular size only, now I'm trying to load and I'm trying to insert into this particular newly created the char array here. Okay, this is also important here. Sometime based on our requirement, if we want to load middle character values, now how we are loading it? Using this particular get chars method. Now here, what we are doing this particular get chars method, basically it is doing here source begin, from which index onwards we want to copy, and what is the destination, like between how many characters we want to store. So that is, you need to provide the either length, so that if you provide the length, it will copy up to the end of the values. Now if you do the length minus values, now the how many values we are doing the minus, so up to that minus values are going to be so subtracted, and the remaining values are going to be loaded here. Now once we load, now in the which character array we are storing here, this is a chv created. Okay, this is, we'll call it as a destination char array. Now inside this particular destination, what is the index we are trying to start? The index we are trying to start as a 0. The index we are trying to start as a 0 here. This is what we need to understand here. This is what we need to understand here. Now this is the one of the important method whenever we are interested to copy the between the characters here. Okay, finally it will print only the string buffer object here. Now go for the another method. Now we already discussed about the append method. Append method, basically what is doing is every time it will try to append the new string whatever the new string we created, that is going to append it to the existing thing. End of the existing string, it is going to append it as a new string here. For example, here string buffer dot append here. Now what I'm doing here, append method. I want to give some space so that it will come up with some space here. Now run as a application. Here if you see, so this is the existing object. Up to this particular TSP, this is an existing object. What we did here, with the space, we added one message called append here. The same message is now we are able to see. Now this is the purpose of append method. Every time it will try to append this particular string to the existing string, end of this particular existing string here. So this is what we need to understand here. So it's a simple method, because in the string buffer we'll go for the important method called append, so that we'll try to add the new string to the end of the existing string here. Okay, insert method. So what exactly insert method will do? What exactly insert is going to do? So this is another important method, append and insert. Append, basically every time it will append to the end of the existing string. But what about this particular insert method? Now if you see how many we are having insert related, insert integer, character, float and long. Float and long here. So what about this particular string here? Now if you see here, index of, so we'll discuss later this index of here, but coming back to below, insert method. Now here also we are having double boolean. Again we can provide the character array. Now we can provide the object, or if you are interested you can provide as a string here. So these many overloaded method we are having here. These many overloaded method we are having regarding this particular insert here. First we'll go for the string related method. String related method. Now what happened? For example, if I give 45, I want to insert from the 45 index location, and this is the value, something like insert I want to insert here. This is the 45 and insert value. Now observe carefully. Here we can go for the debug mode here. Now we'll need to understand here how this insert is working now internally. So carefully observe. String buffer internally calling the insert method. We are calling the super dot insert method. Okay, super dot insert method we are calling. Now, so now if we observe carefully, check offset. Check offset. What exactly this particular check offset method will do? Now, if you go to this particular method, what we are checking? What is the offset value? 45. Now, what is the current length? 39. Now, whatever the offset value we given, this is greater than to this particular. This is the greater than to the current length here. Okay. Now, observe carefully, when we are giving more than the length of the value, more than the length of the value, what is happening? We are getting an exception. This is an exception we are going to throw. So carefully observe here. Carefully observe what happening here. We are throwing an exception here. Okay, this is an exception is thrown. So offset is 45, length is 39. From where it is getting message? This is one. Offset, length and length. Length and length. Now what you understand here? Within the length only we need to provide the offset value. Okay, now we understand. Now what I will do? 39, right? Now I will go for the 37 here. Okay, now I given as a 37. So carefully observe what exactly it will do now. 37 I given. Again I'm calling the same method, insert method. We are going for the superclass insert method. We are checking this check offset here. Both condition now it is returning false. Both condition now it is trying to return as a false here. So once it is written as a false, we are coming out here, checking null. What is the length we are having? 6. Length is 6, because we need to insert these many characters now. Where we are trying to insert here? in the 37 index location. But if we observe count plus length, count already we are having 39, the length we are having 6. So it is become something like a 45 here. Now we'll go for this particular ensure capacity. What is the old capacity? 58. Okay, old capacity 58. Now what about the minimum capacity? 45. So this condition still not satisfied. Coming out of this. Coming out of this. Now if you see the shift method, this shift is going to take care of inside the and changing the positions here. Now offset is how much? 37. Now what is the length we are having? 6. Now if you go to the shift method, what is doing it? What is doing it? So it is trying to do the array copy. Okay. So now what you understanding it? Based on this particular offset here, it is going to do the changing the original array with newly created this particular size here. From line number, sorry, from index number 37, it is going to insert this particular the 6 characters here, whatever the insert we provided. Now after this, it is going to call this one. Now if you print this one, here you can see, oh, where we are having this particular. So observe carefully, anywhere we are having string buffer, new string, buffer, TSV append. Okay, now let me print this. Let me print this particular insert here. What happening basically? Here you can see, here we are having insert here. So how it is coming? Because the 37, whatever this particular 37 we provided, the 37 is started after APPE. After APPE, it started with the 37 index location. From the 37 index location, it is inserted whatever this particular 6 characters we are having. After the 6 characters, again, whatever the original string we already having, so that is going to be appended here. Now, what you understand this particular insert method? Insert method basically, whatever the position you provided, at the position level, whatever the message you want to insert, the message is going to be inserted here. This is very important here, but based on the position, it will insert this insert method. What about this append method? Every time it is going to insert it as a end of the string. End of the string. Okay, this is the difference between insert method as well as append method. So for example here, now here, in place of this particular string, I want to come up with only 45. I want to provide only 45 because insert method is the overloaded method. Now here you can see 45 is inserting. Now here I don't want to insert 45. I want to insert false here. I want to insert as a false. So now if you see, false is inserting here. False is inserting here. So same way, what we are having earlier, CH here. I want to insert this particular CH array. Now observe carefully. At this time, it is going to create a new big array. Here you can see from this particular append method, it's trying to do this particular information here. This particular, whatever the character array we stored earlier, these are the characters. Now it is inserted in from the 37 index location. Now if you print this, the capacity, sorry, the length, now it will increase the length. Now it will increase this particular length here. What is the length we are getting? 64. Earlier length is, earlier the capacity we are having 58 here. But now if you see, the capacity is also now increased here. Current length we are getting as a 64, so capacity might be, we may have different values here. Let me print this particular capacities also. Now you can see capacity is trying to print as a 118. Current length is printing as a 64. Why the capacity and length is increased? Because here offset value we given as a 37, but here we come up with a character array. Character array. Because of this particular character array, the current capacity is reached, like the current capacity more than the current capacity is now reached. Because of this, what is did? It is come up with a new object here. It is come up with a new object. Now the new object is stored with a new capacity and new length here. This is what we need to understand regarding the insert method. So it's a simple answer. Insert method basically based on the position, it is going to be inserted here. If the position is not available, you will get an exception. Okay. So still any questions? Still any question regarding this insert method? Okay. Now, if we don't have anything, so we need to understand the another important method called string buffer dot reverse method. String buffer dot reverse method. Now, what exactly this reverse method will do? What, what exactly this reverse method is doing now? If you see, whatever the original string buffer object we have, now it's doing the reverse here. So now you can see it is come up with a reverse order. It is come up with a reverse order. So how it is come up with a reverse order here? Whenever you are calling the reverse here, all the reverse characters are now stored into the new the string buffer object here. Getting the point? So this is important to understand here how this particular reverse method is implemented here. Now carefully observe what is the method we are checking. Here you can see the simple logic. For loop they are using, but they are doing the reverse calculations. Now you can see n minus 1 and j greater than or equal to 0, j minus minus. So it is a simple method. They are doing the reverse here. Okay. So this is all about the important section about the reverse here. So this is also we did a number of times here for loop with reverse order here. So same thing also it is implemented under this particular string buffer here. Now, what is the purpose here? If you want to convert the string, original string into any reverse format here, now we can go for this particular reverse method. Now, what about this particular delete method? So what exactly this particular delete method will do here? Now, if you see delete caret, getting the point, delete and delete caret. So delete method is expecting two parameters. Delete method is expecting two parameters. So delete caret method is expecting one parameter. Okay. Delete method and delete caret. So delete, what you understand here, if you provide the like beginning index and end index between the characters, how many we are going to have, all the characters are going to be deleted. Now, what about this particular second method? It will delete only one character based on this particular position. Now, if you observe, if the one character is deleted, now we need a shift operations here. We need a shift operations. Why we need? Because one position is decreased here, but one position is decreased. Now we need to replace the position value. So carefully observe. Now this is the string buffer object we are having currently. Okay, currently these many string buffer object we inserted into this particular string buffer. I am trying to delete this position. Okay, whenever I'm trying to delete this particular position, what we need? This particular value here, this particular value here, this particular value here, this particular value here, and like this. Okay, we need a positions here. Now we need a shift operations here. Then only this particular length is going to be decreased one size here. Okay, how it is going to do? We need to understand regarding this particular delete. So it will applicable for the both methods. So either if you go to delete or if you go for the delete caret. First we can go for this particular delete caret. Now I'm trying to delete 12 index location. Now I'm trying to delete this particular 12 index location here. Now here you can see, so I'm trying to run as a debug mode, insert method, length and capacity we are printing. Now we are going for the delete caret here. Now go for the super dot delete caret. First what we are checking? First what we are checking here? Index here. Because indexes are important role here. If you are trying to give so more than the current capacity or more than the current length, now we cannot lower the value. So we should throw in a exception. So because of this, what we are doing here, we are checking this particular whether the index is within the length or not. Okay, what is the length currently? 64. Whatever we given 12, that is within the length value here. Now go for this particular check condition. Now both conditions are returning false here. It is not a less than 0 and it is not a greater than or equals to length here. So two conditions are false. We are doing. Now carefully observe. Here what we are doing here? Shift operations we are doing. What is the index value? 12. 12 plus 1. 12 plus 1 and we are doing the n minus 1. What is the n basically here? Okay, maybe shift operation is expecting n here. So this is a n value. Now n value we are getting as a minus 1. From 13, it will do the shift operations here. This particular code, now it is going to take care of shift operations. Like the 12 position is going to delete. Once the 12 position is going to delete, from 13 onwards, it will try to do the shift operations here. Like it will come back to the one location here. Now after this, what you are understanding? Count to minus minus. Why we are using the count to minus minus? Because one record, one char value now or one byte value, it is deleted from this particular string buffer object. Because of this, we need to decrease the count here. Okay, so this is all about the important section of this particular caret method. So same way, it is applicable for this particular delete method here. Okay, so any questions? Okay, now if you don't have anything, so I'm stopping up to the session here. We need to discuss a few more methods which are available under this particular string buffer class. Once it is completed, we'll go for the string builder. Now once a string builder is completed, now we'll discuss about the java.lang package related classes. Whatever the wrapper classes we already discussed here. Now few of the classes we'll discuss with internal implementation here. Okay, so any questions regarding our today's session? Okay, now if you don't have anything, so I'm stopping the session. We'll continue tomorrow.